And obviously you've had some incredible highs in your career, but I'm wondering if you can pick one golden moment that really stands out for you during your career and why you'd pick that moment.
I would say it's the 2023 Grand Slam win. So accumulation of things on the day. It was my last game in the Aviva, my last Six Nations game. I was captain, and we won it, the Grand Slam, which is obviously a huge kind of deal, and particularly in Ireland, we haven't had too many over the years. I think 4 in history. So it was a very special day to do it at home and do it in front of my family and friends, and it was, I think it doesn't get much better than that for me anyway.
And those moments don't just happen, do they? It's years of, sacrifice and dedication, as all athletes have in their career, but it's also an individual journey that you go on. I've asked you to bring in a few items, and could you share with me your first item that you brought in just to start understanding that journey that you've been on to get to that point?
Yeah. Well, I was absolutely petrified, like putting these in my bag because I didn't check the bag in. I put it on the plane. I was worried it was going to get searched.
Oh, no.
I was like, what loser carries his first cap around with him? Like, you know what I mean?
He's such a diva.
Yeah. So yeah, I brought my first cap. So obviously very special to any, I suppose, professional sports person who plays for their country. And I had to fight pretty hard to get there. Like 24 I was when I got my first cap, which is quite old in, the game now, because kids come out of school and they're just ready to play straight away. I wasn't, obviously. So 24 I got my first cap, so that's obviously very special.
And so where do you keep that? Is that in pride of place at home, or is that somewhere tucked away?
Yeah,
as a memory?
like I have a room, I call it my office. I have all my things like that in it, like memorabilia, if you want to call it that. But I don't really let anyone in there. It's not around the house where guests will come. So yeah, I keep it there. I like having this stuff because it reminds you of all the great moments that you had and how hard it was to get there. So yeah, I'm one of those guys that keeps it, but for myself and for my family more so than anyone else.
I'm the same. I've kind of, over the years though, it started to spill out of one room. So I've now got a picture here in the hallway. That's because you've won so many things. And some more memorabilia around the house. But I think you're right. It's, some great memories, and you've worked incredibly hard for it. So you want it to be, the forefront of your mind. If we go right back to the start though, to the start of your career, and I know in your book, Obsessed, you spoke about, the excitement around football and wanting to be a potential footballer as a young boy. How did you find rugby when football was something that was, obviously a big interest for you at the start?
Well, at the time, football was, when I was that kind of age, 5, 6, 7 years of age, football was the thing that was on TV the most. And for some reason I was obsessed with Italian football because it was Saturday mornings, it was always on TV, free to air TV. So this is the day before like Sky Sports came along, and Man United playing in European Cup, so I was allowed to stay up late, midweek if Man United were playing. So it was like a massive treat to stay up, and so football was my first love. But to be honest, I loved every sport. Went into rugby then around 7, played tennis, golf as well. So I loved every sport, but yeah, rugby was the one that I sort of locked onto, probably because of the school I went to, which was an all rugby school, really.
And do you credit, your success moving forwards also to the fact that you didn't specialise too young, that you kept, your options open with, doing a bit of football, tennis? I was really interested to read that, you went to like under 13s tennis sort of level standard tournaments, that kind of thing. So obviously you kept your options really open at that stage, which was that an important thing and a conscious thing for you?
Huge thing, yeah. And I got the balance right. There was individual sports in there with golf and tennis, and then obviously team sports and they taught me different things. And I think it really set me up for my rugby career, because rugby is obviously a team sport. It's probably the most team sport you can get, like so dependent on each other. But at the same time, I'm kicking, which is like a total individual sport within a game, you know what I mean? And so it probably set me up for both and gave me the mentality for both. And sometimes I think I would have been driven mad if I just played by myself, if I was a golfer or a tennis player. So yeah, but it gave me a good taste of it.
You know those mornings when you wake up and you feel like you've barely slept. Maybe your partner's been tossing and turning. Maybe you were too warm, or maybe your mattress has just seen better days. Sleep is where your body rebuilds, your mind resets, and those golden moments are made possible. That's why I've partnered with Simba. Their hybrid mattress is designed with cutting-edge technology to keep you cool, supported, and undisturbed through the night, so you can sleep deeper and recover better. With over 350,000 five-star reviews and more than 100 sleep awards, you can trust that Simba really are the experts in great sleep. So if you've been waking up achy, tired, or just not feeling at your best, maybe it's time to upgrade your mattress. With a 200-night risk-free trial and free next-day delivery, better sleep could literally be at your doorstep tomorrow. Shop at simbasleep.com/goldmines. And what did you love about rugby, though? What was the thing that really drew you into that sport? Was it the team element, or was it the fact that you say there was the individual and the team element, which I think is such a hard thing to master both of them? You often find incredible elite individual athletes, but they often find it really hard to cross over into that team element. But you were able to do both. Were you able to do that from a young age, or was that something that you learned how to do?
No, I probably loved being part of a team. That's what drew me to rugby. But like I said, it was more the circumstance. Like, I was in a rugby school. This was the game that you played, and it was like, what's school 9 months of the year. So, you're spending all your time there, and that's the game you're playing. Then in the summertime, you go and do the other things. But I loved it. I loved like being part of the team. Probably wasn't always the best teammate in my early days. Probably that driven kind of individual sport mentality seeping into that. But yeah, I loved it from day one.
The environment plays such a big part, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that you have to have talent as an athlete, like you obviously had. But like you say, if you weren't in that rugby environment, if you weren't in the school, would you have got to the level that you potentially could have? If you were then perhaps put into more of a tennis environment, you might have thrived there. So the environment does have a massive role to play, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And the people in the environment.
Yeah.
So my first coach in the senior school when I went there was like one of my favorite ever coaches. He was my under 13 coach, and like it's hard to beat him beyond that. But he was brilliant. He ticked all the boxes. Gave you the love of the game, really. You know what I mean? And that's what keeps you in there. And so it's always been the people along the way that have made the difference for me.
And what kind of kid were you then? So were you a fiery little kid, or you very passionate about what you did from the start? How would you describe yourself looking back at that young Johnny?
Probably very similar to now, like very fiery, like in the heat of battle, probably. But probably very unsure of himself away from the sporting world, like, in school, probably shy, struggled maybe to get to know people at the start, but then when you do get to know them, you know what I mean, you open up a lot more. So probably very similar to how I am now, really.
I think a lot of sports people, again, they talk about, and I think I'd say the same, the values that sport gives you. And I think you kind of touched on it there, that actually, it teaches you all these skills, confidence, the ability to communicate with different types of people. And as a shy boy outside of the pitch, perhaps, rugby and sport allowed you to develop those skills that you perhaps wouldn't have developed otherwise.
I would say 100%, yeah, definitely. And that's the beauty of sport. That's, I try and encourage all my kids they don't force them into any one, but I try and say, look, sport is so good for you in loads of different ways. I can even see the difference in them when they get out. If my daughter Amy goes to basketball, like an hour later she comes home, she's in so much better form. And I notice the same with my son, like getting out, getting exercise, being with people. It's so good for their mental health, really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously, you had to prove yourself to a lot of others to make those teams and to get on the teams. How did that affect your mindset, and how did you tackle that time in your career to make those teams at the beginning?
Well, I didn't get picked a lot of the time at the early part of my career. I was left out more often than I was put in at the start, and that, I think that stood to me going forward. I wish, looking back, I had a slightly different mentality at the time because, you know, I never searched for feedback in terms of why wasn't I picked? You know, I didn't say, well, what can I do to get picked? It was always like, oh, what do these guys know? You know, how could they not pick? You know, that guy, because you have this inner confidence, but I didn't really know how to channel my ambition in many ways. And like, I wish I had, you know, been able to search for feedback and learn how to get better, really.
That's a tough thing to do though as a child, isn't it? To, you know, to go out and seek that feedback. And I suppose at that age as well, it's hard not to compare yourself against everyone else. Did you find it hard looking at other players thinking, well, I seem to be doing something better than those, or, you know, should I be copying their style of training? And were you in that comparison phase, or did you just focus on yourself?
I would definitely have compared myself to like my friends, my peers, even guys that I was competing against. I would have always done that.